Welcome to In Touch with Officer John and Ray the DA, a Clear Channel radio show with two of the most respected crime fighters here in Lexington. Listen in weekly as they discuss hot topics in the criminal justice field. Today, we learn about two new drugs that have recently made headlines and the impact these drugs have had on public safety. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jenna McNeil. Now let's join Officer John and Ray the DA for this week's In Touch.
Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole country. I got a big old spread of papers in front of you there and a bunch of topics for us. Shoot it at me. What do you got going?
well, I'm on a what you call I get a new update on criminal justice matters every day from a national organization to which I belong, just that talks about issues that are out there across the country. And there are issues that are trends. We are frequently behind the crime trends here in Lexington, so I pay attention to what's out there, and this is one of the ways that I do it. The other way is I talk to other prosecutors around the country. But one of the things I was talking with Shane Ensminger and Scott Gibbons the other day. Both of these guys are involved in the drug enforcement business. And the topic we were talking about were these bath salts, and we're talking about synthetic marijuana, that kind of business, and how that is becoming a huge issue.
Tell us about that. What are people doing with bath salts? They snort them?
Yes.
So they take common bath salts. I don't know what the hell a bath salt is.
Well, it's a chemical compound that comes in, the way it's being marketed here, it's a small packet, a little bit like sugar that you put into coffee, those little packets, only it's being marketed as, it's slicker marketing than sugar or whatever the creamer that goes in.
Yeah.
And these young people, I'm just astounded that young people will put almost anything in their body.
So
And it's a chemical compound, and let me tell you something. They say it's not for human consumption. Well, that's the way they get around having to put what's in it, what the content, what the ingredients are. But this stuff is just causes all kinds of. It's been called modern LSD, which is a hallucinogen. It's been called the new meth. It's been called all of these kind of things.
The guy in Florida that actually ate the other dude's face was on bath salts.
That's correct.
And a police officer had to shoot this guy off of him as he was cannibalizing this other guy in the street. 9 times, I think, the cop had to shoot him to get him off of him. It
I'm
was
telling
just a
you.
raging lunatic.
Well, and people are doing that because it's, as Shane Ensminger says, it's being sold as what he calls a better high, whatever that means. And it's scary. It's really scary. But like I said, these young people are, I'm amazed at the sort of things they're put in.
So
their body.
is it illegal to buy these bath salts?
It is now.
So we passed a law now.
Right, but it's only a misdemeanor, which is silly.
So now you can't possess a bath salt.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they're going after people that are selling these, and Ensminger says, something that's been sold sometime in head shops, and
What's a head shop?
that's where people sell useful things like rolling paper.
Oh, so it's these places you see where they're offering things to help you with your indoor tomato plants that you want to grow.
I guess.
And the special lights you need if you were going to grow your indoor tomatoes. And then the special pipes that you need if you want to smoke your tobacco through the pipe, right? We call
guess.
that stuff drug paraphernalia, but they often pop up and they sell it for a while until they can make a case on them, and then they close them down and move somewhere else.
Well, at any rate, that's a big issue, and the synthetic marijuana is another one that's real scary. And it's basically a leafy substance. It's not marijuana, but what they do is they spray some chemical on them, and who knows what's in this stuff? And people are the same kind of awful reactions are the results.
So, is synthetic marijuana illegal now?
I think so, yeah, under the new law just passed by our legislature. But again, it's misdemeanors.
Well, and now misdemeanors, officers really are not supposed to arrest people for misdemeanor crimes.
For many misdemeanor
Yeah,
crimes.
well,
That's
most, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you're not
That's
supposed
right.
you're not supposed to lock people up
That's
for
right.
that. So it sort of has no teeth in
That's
the
right.
reality of it.
Well, you know, in talking a little bit about the marijuana, you know, we're getting a big push. Some guy in the legislature from Louisville has proposed legalizing medicinal marijuana in Kentucky. This is in memory of Gatewood Galbraith, he says. And so the only example that I give is based on my friend Josh Markey, who's the prosecutor out in Astoria, Oregon. And he says, you know, Oregon passed a medicinal marijuana bill for medical purposes, and they give them a card. They have to apply for and get a card that if they're arrested or somebody comes around to investigate this thing, they hand them their card which says I'm allowed to possess
I'm allowed to pack.
a pound
Mhm.
of marijuana. So when they passed the law, they projected that they would need to issue about 500 of those cards that allow people to possess. Well, here we are a few years later, and they've had to issue 55,000.
Yeah, it just takes a couple of crooked doctors to sign these things and
No.
hand them out, right?
See, what happens is they don't get in the prescription business. They give them a card. They apply to somebody out there and get a card that allows them.
But here's the thing with medical marijuana, because you changed my mind on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because my thought process a few years ago was, wait a second, we give people very potent narcotics if they're in pain, which we should. If someone's legitimately in pain, then that's what painkillers are for. What's the difference in letting them, if marijuana is going to serve that purpose, it's not any more harmful than codeine? What's the deal? Why is it, what is the argument against medical marijuana? What's the, I mean, if it helps people, what's the difference in that and giving them codeine?
Why don't we do this? And why don't we? You can get a pill that deals with this. The THC can be put into a pill.
So you don't have to smoke it.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just do that? Well, they object to that.
Why?
But they want to
Smoke pot.
smoke pot.
Yeah, and that's what you explained to me. You said, well, the benefits that you get from marijuana is this THC. They can give you a prescription in a pill form, and it does the same thing. It helps with the nausea that you're going through chemo. It does the same thing. But you eliminate the whole smoking pot kind of deal. And then, of course, if you're trying to treat someone for cancer, because that's their biggest thing, is they're saying, well, I need this for the nausea related to my chemo or whatever. You're giving them something to smoke, which is going to cause more cancer. It's just an excuse for people to. It's a front doorway of getting marijuana legalized, and that's what really is going on in these communities where they're legalizing medical marijuana. That's
One of the big issues that we're dealing with in our office now has to do with car crashes and deaths and serious physical injuries as a result of drugged drivers. You know, you may have seen the study that showed that alcohol consumption is dropping, but marijuana smoking is up. And you can be extremely impaired with marijuana, and the Kentucky State Police Crime Lab is now doing looking for drugs in the blood samples now, not just alcohol. And what we've discovered is that there are a lot of people that are involved in these crashes that have smoked marijuana and are impaired for that reason. And so for all of the people listening out there that think they can smoke marijuana and not suffer consequences by driving, they need to
Well, it was always
pay attention.
complicated when I was arresting people for DUI because we were not specifically trained to deal with the drug driving as much. It was mostly focused on alcohol. But even when you arrested someone for DUI and then you search their car and you find marijuana in the ashtray, they would say, well, I smoked that 2 days ago. Or worse yet, you smell marijuana on them or you find it in their system. Their excuse at court, they would get up and testify before the jury, yeah, I smoked pot 2 days ago. You can't prove that I was smoking it just before I was pulled over.
Well, that's the difference. Listen, that's the difference between finding marijuana in the urine, which would support that argument, because the
Stays in the urine.
THC metabolites remain in the urine for a longer period of time. But if it's in the blood, then it goes through your brain. You see, and as a result, 2 days ago it ain't in the blood. You see, it's more current than that. So that's where we are with this thing, and it's and the issue is, I don't worry nearly so much about the people that are choosing to smoke marijuana. What I'm not interested in them doing is endangering other people